awkwardly.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm down with it.
Yeah.
You know, it makes me happy, so that's all.
It makes you happy that you had to correct it like 4 times because I didn't like it.
Well, I mean, it looks like you have the ultimate vision, you know?
The ultimate vision.
Yeah. I mean, you know.
No one's going to see this.
I know. That's the sad part. In the end, it just ended
it's good.
on the cutting room floor.
It's good.
But
I'm tired of everyone being obsessed with themselves.
Well, I have to ask you, Claudia, what did you think about the first podcast episode? Did you have a chance to listen back to it, or what were your thoughts? Were you able to get through it, or what?
I liked it.
Okay.
I will admit that every time that I get asked to be on a podcast or anything like that, I listened to it just to make sure I didn't say anything stupid before I start to spread the word, like, hey, check out this podcast I was on. So I actually listened to it, and I was actually in LA when you sent it to me, visiting my family for the holidays, and it was nice. And you know, you even though it's like our own like personal project, and you know, it's something that we're just kind of like, oh, we'll see how this goes kind of thing. And so it was like nice to kind of, you know, have my sister there and have the family there, and then just be like, hey, you know, we finally came out with the podcast, and you know, just for people to kind of have like an idea of what we're trying to do with it, you know. It was nice.
Yeah, no, I felt the same way. And I just, you know, when I look at something, I just kind of want to figure out structure in it. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think that's our battle back and forth, is that you always prefer things to be completely kind of off the cuff and, you know, just have no real roadmap and kind of go wherever it takes you. And I at least, you know, sometimes I feel more comfortable if we have just a little bit of like structure. Intro, this, you know, bullet points and stuff like that. So yeah, that's my only thing. I think that'll be always kind of a thing between me and you, and hopefully meeting in the middle is the right place.
I think that's important in a marriage, right? Like the compromise. Yeah. And so I think that it's like obviously one of those things where, you know, regardless if it's like any kind of like relationship, you always want there to be compromise. So this is like another thing about, you know, that I like to be transparent about, where it's like compromise in relationships is obviously important, because it's like it can't just be like a one-sided thing, you know. But I also feel that I listen to like a totally different kind of podcast that you do, and you know, different types of podcasts during like the day. And you know, I've just listened to like so many like super dry ones where I was like, oh God, if I wasn't obsessed with this, like I would have totally like clicked off
checked out by now. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, you know, I feel like it's just fun to sit and just talk to you for like 30 minutes
uninterrupted. Yeah. No phones out. No, there's no phones. There's no checking the news or checking any kind of post or anything like that. It's just, I get to sit here and talk to you. So that part is totally fucking incredible. But, you know, I just, you know, getting back to the no structure thing, let's just hop along out to, you know, this weekend we had the art crawl, you know. So tell us a little bit about the body art crawl. What is that?
So art crawl, we've been fortunate enough to, obviously I've moved to like a place in the front where, you know, all the action is. And like before, when I was in the alley, it was a little one of those, art crawl was like one of those things where I was like, oh, it's art crawl, like when I was in the alley, and I was like, well, no one comes and visits me here. So
yeah, because they couldn't find you, right? In the back.
They couldn't find me, so I would be like, all right, well, I'm going home. And, you know, just, it wasn't like a thing, you know. And so now being like in the front and being, you know, in like where we get to open our doors and stuff, I like it because, you know, most of the time we're working in the studio, so we like to have our doors closed and, you know, respect our appointments and kind of that kind of stuff. So for our crawl, I like to have like more of an open house where people could come and ask questions and see the shop, and we clean it, and we do all that kind of stuff where we want for it to be like a welcoming experience, but at the same time it becomes an overwhelming experience, where
because it's just you, right?
So it's just me, and I always try to have like friends come and visit, and just to where it's like it's not just me there, but it's also one of those things where it's like the same question is asked like a million times during the night, and I don't mind telling people like what we do in the studio or anything like that, but it's just that the next day I feel like drained, because it's like it's a lot of interacting, and and like I've said before in like our other podcast where a lot of people might not know this about me because I am very social in the studio, but I do have like a lot of like social anxiety that like I feel like at times it could be like a little bit where it kind of like messes with like if I wanted to do something that I'm like, oh, but then having to do that was going to lead to this, and it could kind of be a little bit debilitating at times, but so our crawl is one of those kind of times where it's like you're just kind of like, okay, I am in my safe space, but at the same time it's a lot where people aren't just coming in because they're like, I need something sewn. It's more like, hey, this is open, so let's go in here, so it could be overwhelming, but I feel like art crawls, I've met so many freaking cool people during the art crawls, and it's just like a really fun time to get to know like people that are in the community and people that like really enjoy coming down here. So I like it.
Awesome. That was a long answer. Sorry. I got lost a little bit.
You always seem to, I feel like out of the whole entire time that we've done like the whole, Loka thing, even when we would go and be vendors, I feel like you're the one that always benefits like out of the whole thing. Cause I remember when we used to do like the beer and art festival in Bankers Hill.
Oh yeah.
They would give us like testers, and you would just get lost, and I was like, I thought you came to help, and you would
No. I came for the perks,
No, I know.
You're the saleswoman, You
definitely just come for the perks.
Yeah, definitely.
You're like, I'm not here to help sell anything. I'm just here to get lost.
No, but during that whole art crawl answer, I was just trying to respond in my head, and I lost my thought. But I was basically going to say that another thing we butt heads on is that always for the art crawl, I'm like, Claudia, you can stop sewing for a second. You can kind of get up. You can walk around, this and that. But anytime you go by the art crawl, you'll kind of walk by and see Claudia kind of just like sewing, which is cool. She's in it. It's like basically like a lion in her environment, or like something like, it's, you're doing your thing, but I always, I always say, get up and say hi and, walk around and do your thing.
But it's like, okay, so you have to understand too that it's like, it's not like if it's like a huge retail area, so it's like for me to just be like walking, like I don't I just don't, it's like someone saying like, hey, stop doing the one thing that makes you so happy in life and go and talk to the one thing that does not make you that happy.
Yeah, you should always do things that make you a little unhappy.
So. I think that you should have like the ability to decide when you want to put yourself out of your comfort zone, but you shouldn't allow other people to make that decision for you. And for me, like I've asked people, like people that I don't even know that like it was like their first time there, and I'm like, yeah, my husband doesn't really like that I sew during art crawl, and they're like, I think it's fucking cool that you're like doing like this live thing, because it's like obviously like having this much experience, and I do it all the time where it's like people talk to me and I could sew and it takes so much, right? Because it's like sewing is not just one of those things where you're just kind of like sitting there and it's like there's nothing going on. It's more like
I like the idea of you sewing, because this idea goes all the way back to the Bankers Hill
and the
shop.
window?
It's the same thing. We had like a empty window in front, right? And it was always, the idea in the beginning was, let's kind of put Claudia in the front window And, you know, as people walk by, they can see her sewing, you know? And that would be the kind of...
I'm shaking my head like, that, no, at the... Yeah.
That was more kind of like the zoo vibe, you know, I thought, where it was like, oh my God, people walk by like, oh my God, someone's in there sewing, you know?
My husband exploits me.
You know? But I think that the body, you know, for the art crawl... You can sew, but maybe move the sewing machine a little forward. Maybe you can move even out to the, you know, street kind of thing. So you're like more closer. Because you're kind of far away.
I don't think I'm far away. I don't see the way that the shop is set up now. And obviously a lot of you guys have been in the shop, but the way that the shop is set up now is like there's enough room for people to be able to have their own personal space, right? Where they're coming in, they could sit, all that kind of stuff, and they're not in my way, right, of having to work and do all that kind of stuff. And so for me, it's like I wanted to dedicate like a space where someone could sit and wait for their thing, or if they're going in there with like their husband or wife or whatever, they could basically have that, you know. And so for me to like shift around for a specific date is a no, because it's like I'm doing it like where it's like at my own like boundaries, and to have to sometimes like, you know, fight the crowd, I'm not into that. Like I just want to be able to sit. And like yesterday, like I said, like I basically, you know, because it's like a lot of the times I'm like, well, I could either be sewing or I could just sit here like a jackass and just be like, you know, with my feet on top of the table kind of thing. And it's like I don't want to do that. Like I know, like I tell this to a lot of people that like I have to always do something or else I get like so anxious. I'm not good at relaxing. So for me, just to like sit there and just be like watch people come in, it's like. But
there is going to be, hopefully in the next, you're working on it now, but in the next couple months, you know, a lot of Loka original stuff that you're making that's also going to be for sale up there, right? So you're going to have to deal with that. I mean, that's the kind of cool thing that's what you're trying to get to this whole time, is where, you know, things that you're creating, you know what I'm saying, are going to be at the shop, which are really cool.
Yeah. But even then, like, I'm still not going to stop working during art crawl, because it's like, I just don't, there's times where it's like you get like a influx of people where there's a lot of people in the shop, but it's like there's times where there isn't. So it's like for me to kind of like have to wait. And then people like come into the studio not because they're like, oh, I'm interested in sewing. It's more like, this shop is open, so what do they do in here? And for me, you know, it's like, that's cool. Like we do have like a retail space, but at the same time, you know, like I don't know.
I mean, I get your point. I totally get your point.
So,
but I visualize and I look at the sewing machine as some kind of like barrier, you know, between you and anybody walking in. It's like just something that you're putting up in front of you. It's harder to kind of get through to you when there's that machine in the middle.
Not really, because, you know, so the thing is that like, I understand that you're like, oh, there's this barrier, but it's like, yeah, but like I said, people come for art crawl. It's not like if they're coming in because they're like, oh, I want to find out, you know, it's not that. It's just like they see a studio that's open and they're like, I'm going to go in here. Totally fine. We're not saying that we don't like that. What I'm saying is that like, it's like, cool. Like you come in, most people just come in, they look around and they're like, what the fuck is this? And then they leave. And it's like, okay, that's fine. Sewing isn't for everyone. But it's like, I'm not going to be like, let me stop everything that I'm doing for someone that really doesn't care about sewing. And for me, it's like, no, you know, it's like when people do have an appointment with me, it's like, I obviously get away from the sewing machine and I'm like, I greet them, I say hello, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I'm not going to do that just because we're having an open house thing and people are just coming in because it's like, the door's open.
To be continued, Claudia, because you just basically got insight into like an ongoing dialogue that we've had, you know, for like at least the last year. But I mean, like, just something that we always kind of
since July
butt heads about. But you'll just start noticing that we kind of butt heads about a lot of stuff, and I don't think that we should ever hide that for
No.
You know, any kind of podcast or anything like that.
But we are in a relationship and you're totally completely different than me. And I expect to have those kind of like, you know,
differences.
Where it's like we don't agree on a lot of things. And, you know, sometimes it's like, okay. And then, you know, like when we moved into the shop, like I remember just being like super stressed and just kind of like worried, like, oh man, like it's taking so long to move in here. And like I'm having to put off so many deadlines and, you know, this and that. And like, oh man, like I'm having to make people wait. And, you know, it's so stressful, you know. And for me, like I was just kind of like, look, I just need to move the machine from one space to the other and keep working, you know. And I felt like we kept butting heads about like
everything,
the color,
everything,
and the this, and it was like so annoying. And like at the end I was like, you pick whatever the fuck you want, and like as long as like the whole like setup of, because the setup has to be specific because it's like I work there. So after that I was just kind of like, ugh, I just like, you know, I pick my battles. But it's like there are things where it's like I'm very firm about that, you know. It's just like my own, it probably has a lot to do with like, you know, childhood morale and stuff like that. But other than that, I'm fine.
You've gotten way firmer. Honestly, since I first met you, you used to let me get away with a lot more stuff.
I don't think so.
Or at least kind of, we used to kind of
never even
go with the flow a little more. And now I make a suggestion and you're like, no, it's not happening. So, and which is great, actually.
Oh, you like?
I like that.
I like that too?
Yes, I like that you can, you know, make these really tough decisions. You
okay,
know?
Well, we'll see, because I don't think so. But okay.
So, segueing into the interview that we chose for this week, because remember the first podcast was kind of just an introduction to who I am, who you are, blah 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 blah. And then, you know, the theme of the podcast is skills pay bills, right? So you wanted to kind of choose someone kind of close to you that's been around, you know, day one kind of thing, and someone that obviously just basically had that moment in their life where they were like, I'm going to go all in on this thing that I do really well, and I'm going to take a huge risk and do it and see what happens. And they're in the middle of that now. And so it's super interesting to kind of interview people like that and just kind of really find that eureka moment, but just also about them as well, you know. Just basically, you know, it's just like Remy is just incredibly
You just
funny.
gave it away.
Oh, sorry. Well, go ahead. Introduce. Come on. Do your thing.
You're a fucking
Do
idiot.
your thing. Claudia.
So, Remy's a very important person in my life because ... When I met Remy, we were in Bankers Hill still. And I remember, like, when he came in, like, I just have, like, these vivid memories of, like, certain kind of people. Well, most people, you know, but he was just kind of, you know, he was, like, sweet. Like, he wasn't, like, you know, because it was, like, his first, like, him, like, us meeting together for the first time, and he was, like, all sweet and, like, you know, like, innocent and, like, cute, you know. And he's like, oh, I want to do drag for the, you know, I'm trying to get into drag and I want to do it full time and this and that. And I was like, oh, you know, like, I don't think I hadn't ever done, like, an outfit for a drag queen ever before other than him. And I just remember being like, okay, like, this should be interesting, you know. And I think he was, like, one of our first, like, real custom, like, creative projects that we ever started doing in Bankers Hill, because in Bankers Hill we had a lot of that kind of, like, more where we did more tailoring and, you know, that kind of stuff. And so when he came in, I was like, wow, like, that's gonna be awesome. And then, like, he's like, I want to do drag for full time. And then he came back, like, a few months later, and he's like, I want to do a sewing lesson so I can, like, make my own outfits for drag and this and that. And then you know, he had, like, crazy inspirations, but I feel like every time that I see him, and, like, since I've known him, he's just, like, he has surpassed all his goals. Like, I'm a true believer that, like, his mouth, as soon as he opens it, whatever he decides that he's going to say that day happens, you know. And I feel like he's very magical in that sense, you know.
Definitely magical.
He's magical. He's a little unicorn. But, you know, I admire him so much, and anytime that someone takes that, you know, that step to be like, all right, I'm I'm just going to have to hustle whatever the hell I'm going to have to do, you know, and I'm going to do it, and we'll see what happens. And I feel like that, you know, that it takes a lot of, like, courage and ambition and drive, you know, for you to just be like, well, I'm not going to work anymore, you know. And I mean, obviously we all still work, but it's whatever we want to do, right? And so he's truly an inspiration to me. And you know, I really enjoy working with him because obviously he's always challenged me, you know, to you know, work on new stuff and just to kind of like really think outside the box. And I feel like me and him, we've like evolved, like, you know, he's evolved in his own way and then I evolved in my own way. And it's really good to be a part of like his journey in like becoming like who he has become, you know. So it was really special for him to basically be like, I'm down to do it. And it was really super, like, one of those things where it was just out of nowhere.
Spontaneous.
Super
Totally spontaneous.
For us to, like, you know, he was just there and he's like, you want me to do it? And I was like, fuck yeah. Like, I seriously, like, because he's so busy, like, I just kind of didn't imagine that he would have time for me. That's fucked up. No, but that's fucked up. But he
stayed like, there. He waited, and we we went all night. You know, we stayed outside in the cold.
Mm-hmm. So we basically filmed outside of our our little house Casita here, and so you know you'll probably like hear like a little bit of like a crackling from like because we had like a bonfire.
Fire pop. Crackling of the fire in the back.
And so we basically, you know, we were filming outside and it was like a cold night, but I thought that it was like such a great time for, you know, all of us to sit. And then, you know, Manny, he never is like in the shop to like, you know, see me interacting with like some of my big clients and stuff. So it was nice for him to kind of like just, you know, hear like at least like more than one sentence come out of Manny's mouth.
Well, no, you both did most of the talking. I was kind of like I was telling you before, I was just kind of laying back and just watching you guys have just an awesomely interesting, entertaining conversation. So, and I popped in every once in a while, but yeah. And you'll hear also, don't forget, you'll hear Vito in the background as well.
Yes.
Vito, our neighbor Vito.
Vito's our neighbor. He's also very special to me because, you know, he, I feel like he's always had my back, you know, like he's always just been around, and whatever kind of crazy idea like I have and that I'm like, hey, are you willing to do this? Like he's never been like, no, you know, and I obviously never put him in situations where he's like, what the fuck is wrong with you kind of shit, you know, but it's like, he's always been there. And like, and I know we've talked about it before where he's like, he's captured like our whole entire like growth here, you know, like moving to this place
from the very beginning. He's documented all in photos.
So it's cool to be able to like see that, you know, and I'm grateful for him to
100% grateful
for him to be like, you know, obviously like my friend. And then a lot of the times I traumatize him and I tell him a bunch of stuff about you, and then he's like, most of the time that I see Vito, he's shaking his head no, because I'm telling him something very grotesque, fucked up, that things that I've told that I've done to Manny. So then he's just kind of like, but I mean, he sticks around, so.
Well, this is a great time. Let's segue. We had a nice fireside chat. I think it was Monday, January something or other. We kind of filmed this, like you said, off the cuff. Mm-hmm. We had, and I think we filmed a little bit of footage too. You'll be able to see a little bit of that. But we had just Remy, Claudia, Vito, and me just chopping it up by the fireplace.
No, I didn't have shows lined up.
So how did you...
Well, when I moved out here, I didn't even bring my drag with me. I did not want to be a drag queen.
Oh, so how did that... How long before you moved
that's one of them God things, I think. Okay, I'm going to give the Campbell's condensed soup version of my history with drag. Mariam started as a Halloween costume about 8 years ago. People thought in a velvet tracksuit, she was this old Yiddish woman from the Bronx named Mariam Thistleswat. We changed it to just Mariam T over time. So people thought it was really funny, and I was like, oh, people really like this character. My friends were like, oh, make YouTube videos. So I did. Then I started getting into the idea of being like a drag queen. But I was going through this really like weird punk angsty stage. I was listening to a lot of like Courtney Love and Hole and all that fun stuff. And so I created another drag queen when I was like 19 named Reagan. And she was a punk rock girl. Like, the first time I ever performed in drag, I drank blood on stage and chained somebody to a stripper pole. Very different than what I do now. So that was like, so I had YouTube videos as this Yiddish woman from the Bronx named Mariam, and she talked like this, and it was I didn't wear a necklace. I had a casino card on a lanyard instead. Like, it was very campy. And so then I did the whole like punk drag and the club scene off and on for like a year or two. And then drag kind of fizzled out. I was playing around with it, moved to California to be I wanted to be a stand-up comedian and improv actor. I did that for a couple years, started missing drag, tried to bring back the whole punk rock thing, and I was like, no, that was my, when I want to have my punk rock phase, I listen to music now. I don't need to drink blood. And then, fake blood. And then, I'm from the South, not crazy. And then, I was like, I wanted to bring Mariam back, but I never thought that, because I always thought of her as like this like character. And so I never thought of her as like a drag queen in the clubs. And so I went back and forth for a couple years trying to do drag, but it just wasn't working. And then somebody asked me to do stand-up in drag, and I was like, oh. Because I was doing stand-up, and then I would quit doing stand-up to do drag a little bit, and then I would quit drag to do stand-up. And somebody's like, can you do this show in drag? And I was like, oh, I could.
It's like a eureka moment.
Literally, it was one of those things like, hey, idiot! Like, in the Grinch in the movie, he's like, I'm an idiot! And he's like, you're an idiot! Like, it was like literally that. I felt like the dumbest person. And from that moment on, from the time I did that, it was like 9 months, I was a full-time drag queen, had quit my jobs, was working in Hillcrest, hired at Lips. It was like one of those, like I said, it's a God thing. It just like boom, 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 like happened. I think I had to experience both of them different to figure out how to navigate both fields separately. And I think having that experience of navigating drag without comedy, or stand-up and stand-up without drag, I'm able to navigate them both. I think that's why I'm good at what I'm at. Why I'm good at what I'm good at, and why it kind of like slid in at the right time.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Because
I
think very
I had
like original.
Yeah, there's not a lot of stand-up comedians in drag, but it's definitely becoming more popular. It's definitely getting more lucrative. Like, I'm being able to travel more and stuff.
Did the love of comedy come first? Or?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You're not gonna get a word in over here. Okay. I'm over here like, he's on the show too. Shit.
He's gonna be on it a lot.
Oh, okay, great.
Because he's gonna just drop in.
I just crack wise every once in a while.
Perfect.
Yeah. He's just here for the looks. He's just here, to look good.
For the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, you're recording it too. I guess I started drag when I was 4. I always tell people that as a joke. But, so I was a very, very, like, when I came out, my family was kind of like, yeah, we know. I had a Barbie Dreamboat when I was 4. I had a my-sized Barbie. I only played with Barbies. I put makeup on my mom and my grandparents. I used to wrap towels and blankets around me in different colors as dresses, and towels as wigs, and lip sync to Reba McEntire VHS recordings of like her concerts. Like, so I guess that happened. I distinctly have memories. I was a very, very, very sweet kid. Like, the sweetest, like sticky sweet.
Aww, what happened?
I don't fucking know.
And cute too.
Yeah, oh my god, did you see that video that got posted on? Yeah. I was the kid that, like, I stayed in from recess grading papers. Like, I was teacher's pet. I was honor roll. I was in gifted and talented. Family life kind of went to shit around, like, 5th grade is when family life went to shit and kind of stayed shit. Up until then, it was very, like, church. Parents had great jobs. Parents in great health. No family. Kind of perfect.
Yeah.
Idyllic.
Yeah, like, obviously issues with parents, but I didn't have... Like, my young childhood was just great. And then in 5th grade, it came to, like, a screeching halt of, like, bad, like, very bad for several years, like, no break. And it was at that time, like, shortly before that, I remember it was that middle school age, around, like, 3rd, 4th grade, where you're getting picked on a lot for being weird and different. And as an obviously effeminate gay kid, in small town Arkansas, because I grew up in a town of 25,000 people in the Bible Belt. I did not have a lot of friends. And I remember I distinctly remember certain girls picking on me and me just sitting there taking it because I couldn't think of anything funny I couldn't think of anything to say. And I would pray at night because, we went to church, and I would pray to ask to be able to say something back. Like my brain, I would like walk away from the situation and then think of something, but I couldn't. But I remember being a kid, like it is a distinct memory of being bullied and picked on and teased and crying at a very young age, and like looking up at the sky and being like, I want to be able to say something back because I was just sticky sugar sweet and just couldn't. And then life got hard, and so I think I got hard a little bit.
Yeah.
And I had to grow up really fucking quick. So from 6th grade up was a very like, I had the responsibilities of a high schooler. Like it was a lot. And so I think I grew up and I think I got hardened a little bit, and the wit came. I don't know where the fuck it came from, because I remember not. Super witty, yeah. But it just happens. Like, and I say that and it sounds like arrogant and stuff, but I've just learned to accept like it's a gift and I love it. But sometimes it causes problems. Like sometimes I'm like, shut up. I have one of those brains that you can't turn off.
I know.
It just the wheels don't stop. I'm constantly thinking of stuff. And so like I always tell people, I'm like, I've written jokes about sex that I'm having while I'm having sex. Like it's hard for me to focus on anything. Like it's crazy. So yeah, I guess then to answer your question, that's what, yeah. So I guess the comedy came from that, and then I always was a fan of drag. Like I remember I was fortunate enough, my parents were pretty cool. I remember seeing bits of the RuPaul show on VH1 in the 90s. I remember I grew up with Elvira. I grew up with the Golden Girls, so kind of idealizing these women. The drag was kind of always there, and then RuPaul's Drag Race came out while I was in high school, and I think that has a big influence. I'm a generation, part of there's a special generation now of drag queens that grew up with drag on their televisions, and that was never before. Yeah. So
when did that start?
RuPaul's Drag Race started, I believe, in 2005. Season 1 aired, which I was a freshman in high school, and back then it was on VH1. So for the majority of my high school life, I was watching drag queens on television. But I remember, I have another distinct memory of sitting in French class and my friends telling me, oh, you're going to be a drag queen one day. And, oh, absolutely not. No, I only like watching it. I don't want to. No. Because I wanted to be a business guy.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to go to school for business. Because you know me, I love negotiating and planning and stuff. Oh, yeah. Because my dad... I don't know if he regrets it now, but I hope he does. It really discouraged me pursuing art as a...
My parents did too.
Really discouraged it.
Yeah. But your dad didn't, right, Manny? Like your parents never discouraged, like, oh, you should...
No, they warned that it would be a hard life, that it wouldn't be easy, but they never said, oh, you can't do this, like some kind of movie or something like that. No, they were indifferent about it.
Yeah, I mean, I always had my free will, but my dad just, it was not a... So when I finally got the gumption to do it, that was great. But yeah, so I got the comedy, and then I guess the drag came after, when I was like, oh, you know what, I'm kind of funny. And like, playing dress up is fun, and yeah, I was always playing in my mom's makeup in high school, and like I think that's one of the big reasons I did community theater so much, because I got to wear a face full of makeup. So looking back, I think you see the puzzle pieces of your life, because even when I decided to do drag, I fought it for years, because I was like, oh well, Mariam, you can only do her for videos, you can't do her in the club, so you have to create these other ones. I was literally creating every excuse I could to not do something that was chirping at me from the age of 4. Because obviously it's something that's been chirping at me since a young age. I had my own pair of ruby slippers when I was a kid. Like, I pranced around in heels. There are tons of pictures of me in big women's hats, pantyhose, heels at 3 and 4 and 5. Like, and I fought it for so many years until somebody was like, hey, do this. And then it was like, oh. It's crazy how people will let them, like, sabotage themselves. That's what I did for years. I could be so much farther in my career. I mean, I'm exactly where I need to be right now. Like, we all are. All that.
Universe stuff.
But yeah, I made so many excuses for why it wouldn't work.
There was no shows?
No. The closest, so I would drive, when I started drag, I would drive an hour and a half in my mom's minivan to Memphis, Tennessee to do their amateur contest on like a Thursday. We'd load up the minivan with our friends to drive to a really dangerous part of Memphis. Like, looking back on it now, I was telling somebody, we were talking about drag queen. So, do you guys like the whole like crossing paths with people thing? Like, separate. Okay,
fuck yeah.
This is fucking fuck yeah.
Wait.
Crossing paths.
Wait,
fuck yeah.
before you start that story, I need to pee.
Okay, are we taking a bathroom break?
Yeah, let's take a bathroom break.
Do you want to cross streams?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I could pee standing up.
All right, we'll be right back with the podcast right after I pee on Claudia's.
Could it be? Because I am from the San Fernando Valley, and the San Fernando Valley is the #1 porn capital of the world. So. And
meth and.
Meth too, you know.
All right, let's do this.
Broken stories and all that shit. Paths crossing.
Yeah, but I don't remember why I got to that. I remember the story I'm gonna tell. Oh, so I was talking about driving to Memphis.
Yes.
Super dangerous. Well, paths crossing. So you know what's crazy? One of my good sisters here, Nadia Simone, drag queen here, is from Memphis. She pulls out a picture we went to New Year's Day dinner together. Pulls out a picture of her back in the day with my very original drag mom, my drag aunt, and one of the first queens I ever did a show with back in the day, who's passed on, Beverly Hills. She did drag with them, and now we're both working and doing shows together in San Diego. It's so weird.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, she got into like a fist fight with my drag mom.
That's okay.
Yeah, my drag mom had somebody pull a gun on her. Like, drag in Memphis is fucking like, well, drag in the South, especially back in the day, pageant, like drag pageants. Oh, there's stories of like, girls would put, they would put crushed up glass in girls' powders. So girls would go to powder like in between, and they wouldn't pay attention. There's ground up glass, and they smashed into their face. Steal people's out, because like pageants. So before RuPaul's Drag Race, just a small little side story of history, or just knowledge. Before RuPaul's Drag Race and drag was really mainstreamed and stuff, the only way to really make money in drag was through the pageant system.
Yeah.
So when they would fuck with your shit, they would fuck with your shit, like burning, ripping, stealing shit. Glass in people's powder. There was this thing that you could I forget what, some powder that changes color, and they put it in your powder, and when you would go on stage and you would sweat, you'd drip like blue. The chemical would change colors, and like they would fuck with each other.
That's so jacked up.
Yeah, it's not as bad. But anyway, so we used to do drag together. Or no, we didn't used to drag together, but she did drag but she's had a gun pulled on her 6 times in drag. I think she said 6 times when she was in Memphis.
Wow.
I was like, girl, you should have quit. That was God right there. Why are you still cross-dressing? Lord told you to quit. You need to keep your eyes on the Lord.
I love that one time, remember when you were like, yeah, come to Bitcha Bingo Wednesday?
Yeah.
And you were like, yeah. And I asked you, I'm like, can I take Ice? Because it was Ice's last day of school.
Yeah.
And I told Manny, I'm like, hey, let's go check out Remy. Because to be honest with you, I've never watched RuPaul's Drag Race. Just because, I don't know.
We should watch it sometime.
Yeah, no, I'm totally down for it. But you were like, you should come to the show to see what the girls wear, so like that you can kind of have an idea of what we should create. And I was like, cool, I'm all down for it. We ended up going, and we took Ice, which at the time was 5. And you were like, yeah,
it was just last.
Fine.
It was last year.
No, it wasn't.
Yes,
last
no, because
year.
I didn't work at Lips.
Oh well. Okay.
Wait, no, wait.
Maybe. Well.
Yeah, it was 2018.
Yeah. So
right?
Well, last year was 2019. But. All
okay,
right.
so how old is Ice now?
She's 7.
She was 6-ish.
Okay, she was 6. She was about to turn 6. You're
okay.
right. And so we ended up
Still
going.
no place for a 6-year-old.
No, and we were like, yeah. And I had asked you, I was like, hey, would it be cool if like I take Ice? And you're like, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, I know what kind of parent you are. So.
Yeah. So then I was like, okay.
You wild.
Okay, man. He's like, wait a minute. He's like, no.
No, I love how you guys
worse.
parent because I love how you guys parent because there's like, Ice is like she's like a tiny child. She's a little adult that doesn't like other kids.
No, she does not.
That.
Dude, she's like. If
I was super grown up and didn't fucks with kid either. I think she's gonna be a cool kid.
Yeah.
She's gonna give you absolute fucking hell from the ages of 13 to 26.
Oh no, she's already doing that.
But then she'll loosen up. Okay, go, because she's a Leo too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
same. No, I get her. That's why I fucks with ice. I get her.
So she was like, I told her, I was like, we're gonna go see Remy. There was a time where she was like in love with you because you had all the nice shiny shit.
Yeah.
Now she's like too cool for school, but she was like all like she had that moment where she was like in love with like
the frilly
the
girly
glamour
stuff.
and all that.
Oh yeah, when
I
I started, it was all Daisy Duck and Cinder.
So she there was like that. It was during that time, and I was like, we're gonna go see Remy perform because he's a performer. Because she's always asked me, she's like, what's a drag queen and this and this, And so I'm like, he's a performer, and he
loves my boobs.
Yeah, loves it.
She thinks they're hysterical.
I have pictures of her. We'll show them.
Yeah.
But we ended up going to freaking Lips, and we're like, I had never been there, and like Manny's there, Ice is there, and you guys sit us down, and it was like freaking awesome. First number, Gina comes out in like that little like feather thing.
She's wearing like feather panties and feather pasties.
It just looked like she just glued feathers on.
I mean, basically, yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, where the fuck did I bring my kid? We like seriously like felt like the whole entire time like melting into the seats and be like, let's get the fuck.
Because everybody surrounding us was looking at us.
Yeah. And so that's what we usually don't let kids in. More so people, the thing is parents when they try to, we let you guys in because you knew me and Gina and so we like made an exception. But it's more so like your parents, you can do whatever you want. It's for the rest of the audience because it makes everybody kind of feel like, and that's why I tried to bring Ice into and be like, no, I know them to cool the audience down a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if that would have been any other night, I would have been like, no, don't fucking bring Ice to Lips.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I get it. Like, if you're a cool parent and like you're exposing your kids to that, like that's like great. I think that's awesome. But it's the other people that are like, oh dear.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Because there was a full moaning contest.
Oh yeah, there was an orgasm contest in bingo, and then we say bitch every time.
I know.
You call it B letter. Yeah.
So.
The tipping.
So the tipping. So I had been to one drag show before then, and so I knew about the tipping, so I was like, oh my god. And I told Manny, I'm like, babe, bring singles, and he's like, okay. And so he brought all these singles, and
he thought it was only going to cost a couple dollars.
Yeah,
for the whole
performance,
night.
You like wave around your dollar bills or whatever, and the girls come. And so he was like, hell no, don't let Ice do that. And I was like, that's like the funniest part,
Yeah.
And so when he went into the bathroom, I was like, give them the money. She got on the little chair, and she was like all excited about it.
It was so cute.
But she was like, the next day, she was like, actually, when we left, she was like, I loved it so much. Like, she loved everything about it. Like, she loved the decor of, like, the restaurant, the bathroom, everything. She was like, I love this place. I want my room to be like this. And she was, like, all for it. The next day, she was like, Dad, me and Mom, we're going to Lips, but you don't have to come with us. And you don't have to bring your dollars.
You don't have to bring your dollars.
You will go alone.
She is welcome back. I wish I could get her. I wish I had some other gigs that we could bring her to. I would love if I ever do a brunch show at Moe's. You could, because we have like during the day you can bring kids. There's not a lot of daytime drag out. Yeah. I think it's really great to expose kids to drag.
Yeah.
Especially if you're an ally and have queer friends and stuff. I think it's really great. Not every setting, of course. Drag is usually not done in a setting for kids.
Yeah.
That's why I'm all for the drag queen story time stuff, and I love that. I think it's really cool because a lot of kids don't know how they identify or feel so many different ways. Because being kids weird, you go from like not having rules to then having rules.
Yeah.
Like where it's like, oh, everything's make believe and playtime this, and then it's like, oh no, now you have to like, because that's what happened with me. Like I played with like Barbies and stuff, and then it was like, okay, you're too old for this. But then I was like, but why the fuck have you let me play with them for so long? Like, now I can't because now I'm going to school. So that's like, kids need that like in between of like, what is this creature?
Yeah, no,
and I think it's great to have kids like exposed to drag. I've had some really, really incredible experiences working with kiddos in drag. Like really, I did a guy, dad, he and his wife had separated and brought his 12-year-old son was having his coming out party at Lips.
Oh, that's awesome.
I fucking cried.
How old was he?
12. He was 12.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and his parents had separated, and his dad freaking brought him and a group of like 6 or 7 other people, and he like had his coming out party, and I was like, that's fucking rad.
Yeah. That
like they're getting to experience. Like, yeah, I think drag's cool for kids. I think drag's cool for families.
Yeah,
there's
for sure.
There's the you guys know what Comic-Con is?
Yeah.
Well, there's a drag con. It's on this. I think this is like the 6th year.
It's in LA, right?
It's huge.
I know.
So this will be my 3rd year going this year.
When is it?
It's in May. You guys should come up for a day. The very first year I went, was absolutely blown away at how many whole groups of families I saw.
Shut up.
And by that I mean grandparents, parents, kids, babies, like in groups, grandparents in drag with their like 10 and 12-year-old like queer kids, straight girls that watch the show, because like Drag Race has a big a pretty big audience now, and a lot of like young girls and young kids are watching it, and families are like watching it together.
Yeah.
I could not believe how many freaking families were there and how many kids. They have a whole kids area with like blow up PlayStation, like blow up bouncy houses and drag queen story time, and like a whole kids program too. It's crazy.
That's
so I think it's
awesome.
really cool to expose kids to that.
Yeah.
Plus, if you're in Southern California and you want really fabulous shopping, DragCon, booths are really expensive. You should set up your pussy pillows.
Yes.
They have like, there's like a vulgar home decor store, or like they sell everything. There's hundreds and hundreds of vendors. Everything from like wig sellers to jewelry makers to like punk clothes makers to merkins to pussy pillow. Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, Dragon Kids, love it.
Yeah, me too.
Love it.
Because I think that it's like a good like thing for her to like actually like see, and like now, you know, she's the one schooling like the kids that I remember she had like a friend, and the friend was like, why is he wearing a dress? I remember one time we were
and she gets to tell them.
And she's like, Remy's a drag queen. He's a performer. And like, I feel like we need like kids to be able to defend people like that. Well, yeah, right?
Too. And a lot of times kids just have questions. They don't. Yeah. Because 9 times out of 10, when I tell a kid, like if a kid has a question like that I've dealt with, they're just like, oh. Because I get kids in my section, because I work at Moe's one day a week out of drag, and we get I'll get families and stuff. And they'll be like, oh, you're Mariam. Oh, she does drag. Well, what's drag? And we'll show them pictures like, oh, so you do that? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They just want to know.
Yeah.
They're confused, and then they kind of process it because they don't have the rules and the structure that we are ingrained with.
Yeah.
And if you have really cool parents, it's less ingrained in you. And I think that's kind of like where we're going as a society, is less of that. Boys do this and girls do this. Because kids just, they want to know. And as soon as they know, they're like, okay, whatever.
Because Ice loves the whole, like, dressing up thing.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, I'm like, dude, I am, like, your, like, hello, I could freaking help you with that, right? And so we dressed up as Annabelle this year. And I
know, it was creepy as fuck.
I feel like in that, like, whole, like, the whole backstory behind that is basically I wanted to be a better parent than Manny. And for her to be like, Mom, you're the fucking coolest. Daddy isn't cool anymore. Because I feel like we're...
At least you're open about
competing.
Yeah.
I'm always competing. I always want to be the better parent.
And you're always
the coolest. Yes, I always do lose. So...
Who keeps her stocked up on her lentils, though? Which one? Who is
Manny.
I've been making the Costco trips lately.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't realize that was her eating all the lentils.
Yeah.
I just thought you really liked lentils.
No.
Until I saw her Instagram profile, and it was like, I love lentils. And I was like, that little munchkin has been eating lentils?
Yeah, she loves that shit.
For how long has she loved lentils? Sorry to sidetrack you from what you were talking about.
I think since she was like 4.
Isn't that fascinating? Are you, either one of you, how did the lentils come into play?
So Liz, my sister, she's a vegetarian, and she used to make like these chili dogs, like vegetarian chili dogs, and those lentils taste exactly like chili. And so I had tasted them, and one time we went to Costco, and I'm like, dude, I just need like a meal that I could eat real quick. And I saw them, and I was like, I'm gonna get them. And I was like, she's like, wow, that smells really good. And I'm like, try it. I didn't tell her what it was. I was like, it's just beans. I mean, it is like a bean.
Yeah.
And so she freaking loved it. And like, she will
wild.
ask for it. She'll be like, I want lentils. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, every day.
Oh,
like,
so she only
has like 3.
Shits.
Like,
she's just... She is just...
big time.
She is just constantly just taking dumps.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of fiber for a little body.
Oh, dude.
Like...
Yeah.
I have always loved beans and stuff too since I was a kid, and but it's weird for kids to.
Oh, dude, yeah, she won't.
Maybe in her past life she ate a lot of lentils. I fucking think about shit like that though.
Oh, I'm sure.
I think in my last shit. Oh, me too. I think either in my last life, because I believe in multiple. I think in my last life, I either had to be a woman. Or I was also a drag queen in my last life, but I really feel like I was a woman. I read this interesting. It was a podcast or something I was watching or listening to, that there are some people that theorize on multiple lives and stuff that think the reason some people are gay because they still can't find out a reason. Like there's not really anything scientifically that really backs up. There's nothing solid on like why people are gay. But some people that believe in multiple and blah 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 and really theorize and talk about it think that a lot of times it's them living in that body for the first time in a while.
Wow.
Where like my last couple lives I was a woman and I'm like, oh fuck, I just got slapped into a boy body, but I still have all of these like hanging on shoes of a woman that was straight. I don't know, but it's fun to think about, right?
Yeah.
It's all cuckoo and out there, but I love thinking about. Or like trans people. It could be they're on their 50th life, and for the last 49, they've been a man, and then that soul this time happened to bebop into a woman's body. Crazy. But they've been, for the last 49 circles around, they've been a man, so they are on to all of that, and they can't let that identity go. It's fun to think about, right?
Yeah, it is really fun to
I just think from, like, the age of, like, 3 and 4 years old, I wanted to dress up in heels and shit like that. Like, you're a kid, and you don't have those rules, and you don't have less of that. The veil is so much more lifted then. I'm stoned. I'm talking about some outer space shit.
That's true, but it's okay.
But I feel like in my last life, I had to be a fucking woman. Or, you know, maybe we just get one go around this and nothing happens after this and we just turn it into dirt.
That's so true.
I'd be fine with that too. I either want us to have a bunch of lives or this is it. I don't want there to be like a 2 or a 3. I either want like a shit ton of them, like a bunch of lives, or this is it, and like, okay, I'm out. I don't like that middle ground bullshit. You know what I mean? Don't fuck with me, universe. Yeah. I either want like 712 fucking lives,
or one.
Like, don't give me 3. Don't waste my fucking time.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Like at least cat lives, you know?
Yeah, minimum 9.
Yeah.
Minimum 9 lives.
Yeah. I wonder what I would be if this was like my. I think I was an abuelita.
Oh,
with
for
like
sure.
a slutty past.
No, yeah, oh, for sure. Like, you were the abuelita.
Kids?
Yes, you were the abuelita.
10 kids.
Yeah.
That you were like that abuelita that was bad back in the day and then just stayed at home cross-stitching.
Yeah.
I think about shit like that.
Because I do, like, people ask, so I had, like, this, like, client, and she was like, any recommendations on, like, fabric that would be good to get tied up in? And I was like, fuck yeah. Like, hell yeah.
What's a good fabric to...
I mean, anything that, like, doesn't have, like, stretch, like cottons would be nice. But then again, it's like, are you really trying to go, like, in, like, a rougher setting?
Well, yeah, and are you going for style or
I mean, anything really works if you really think about it.
Oh, yeah, you can tie bitches up with whatever.
Yeah. When there's a will, there's a way. So that's what I like to think. But, yeah. And I feel like a lot of the times, like, I'm, like, the bad influence to my clients. Because I'm like, you know what?
Yeah, I mean, you're an asshole.
Go get that slit a little higher.
Yeah. Oh, me. You're like, you know you like your dresses up here.
Yeah. Because sometimes you try to go a little conservative, and I'm like, come on, ho, think about it.
Why?
No.
Yeah, because I'm a slutty Easter basket.
Yeah, exactly.
Can that be the name of this episode?
The slutty
Easter basket?
Yeah, that's Remy.
I have this bad habit of, I'm usually the one who names the episodes for Who Invited Her, the podcast I'm on. And there's some point where I'm like, wait, can we name it that? And then that's usually what it is.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. Don't forget to listen to my podcast.
Yeah, don't forget.
Who Invited Her? Yeah. _podcast on Instagram.
So are you guys collaborating soon on something, or is...
I would love to get you. All the gang has been in Europe. I think they're back today. They all went on a vacation without me. But I would love to have you on our podcast.
Yeah, let me know.
That would be super fun.
What are we working on as far as, like, sewing?
Oh, well, you fixed a caftan that I sort of I sewed, and then one that I cut apart you pinned.
Yeah.
And then you're taking the store-bought thing that I'm rhinestoning and adding some shit to it.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
But we're not working on anything
like
custom and big right now.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing any of that right now. We're focusing on... I've got a big project that I'm focusing on right now, and as soon as that hurdle is passed...
Then you'll have more time.
Then I'll have more time to work on a custom project. But I do have one. Yeah. I know what I want to do. I have this idea for this monochromatic... You're going to be so shocked. Yeah. You're going to be just shocked. It's monochromatic. Pastel. With floral.
Wow, look at you.
And feathers. So, ladies and gentlemen of you that don't know me, I basically just described 90% of my wardrobe.
Yeah. But that last red one, like that.
That one wasn't pastel. That's the best we've done. Now we have to do better than my red dress this year.
And I feel like
we
I
set
love
the bar pretty
working
high.
with you. Yeah, because you constantly challenge me. How many times did I fucking take apart that damn red dress?
This dress, Claudia and I have gotten down to the fucking wire on many a dress.
Mm-hmm.
This one I was truly concerned about when I came over on Thursday. The party is Saturday. When I came over on Thursday, and at 1 a.m., so 1 a.m. on Friday, Claudia completely ripped the dress apart for the third time.
Yeah.
It was like 1:22 in the morning. And I did a serious look at the mirror. And I trust Claudia and I trust us, but I did a serious look in the mirror and just went, and just like gulped, and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna fucking have a dress for this. And then I came in the next day, and it was great.
Yeah.
But at that moment, I was like, we are at 36 hours and at this point, like, not only the dress had to be made, 40 feet of ostrich feather had to be hand sewn onto it. I was ripping apart flowers and hand rhinestoning them, and then those had to be glued on one by one onto the dress, but only after it was done. And we still hadn't done a final form fitting, and I was still making the shoes to match the dress. Like, we were on crunch time. I didn't sleep. I pulled an all-nighter that night.
Yeah.
I didn't sleep before red dress.
No,
I was up for almost 40 hours.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
To date, my best outfit, concept-wise, head to toe.
Well, I told you, I was like, I'm gonna fucking rip this thing apart, and you were like
because
so
it wasn't
scared.
Yeah,
because I'm like, hell no, it does not look like anything like the inspiration picture that you had given me, and I was just kind of like, hell no, it's not.
And that's
lame.
one thing I love about you.
It's not like to me. I was like, fuck no, I love challenges like that, right? And like for me, like working with you, like it's always been really fun because we're having to dress like a man that has put pads on to shape as a woman, and and you're so curvy, you know, that it's like it's not like a very small like measurement. It's like
we're doing well, and you're doing unrealistic sizes too, like
yeah,
because with drag I'm cinching and padding and bra, so not only am I creating a woman shape, I'm creating an ideal. If I were I sit before you a 200-pound man. If I were a 200-pound woman, this is how my body would look in a perfect world.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So you're having to deal with unrealistic shapes too.
But you know what? And that's what I love about, you know, working with like obviously like a very specific like size, because it is very like, it's like basically like major hourglass shape, right? And so being able to cut for that and tailor for that, and a lot of the times we're like, okay, let's do here and let's do that, and when you look at the dress, it looks sometimes cartoonish in like the shape, because it's like that's how your shape is, right?
Yeah, it's like that Jessica Rabbit.
Yes. And so I love like working with you for that, because it's like it just kind of like you've inspired me so much in the sense where like I would look at you and I'm like, he looks really good, and he's like a curvy woman, right?
Yeah, because I'm a bigger
like,
guy.
Wow.
Like, it's fun to play with those proportions, and like, and that's what's great about drag. Like, if you want to make your ass and your hips huge, you do it. If you want the tiniest fucking waist, like one of the big winners on Drag Race has like she's a 19-inch waist. She's been corset training for like a decade. She tours with Dita Von Teese. She's like, you get to play with that and create this whole character, and then building a costume around that. And drag is a whole special niche too of costuming.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Because
I feel like I want to get some butt pads.
They're amazing. I can send you a link for some silicone ones that aren't as like intense as mine.
Because someone won't pay for like a mommy makeover.
Buy the woman a new ass.
A mommy makeover.
She wants you to buy her a mommy makeover.
What does that entail?
I don't know. Like, I think they give you like boobs.
You get new
and,
tits,
like,
new tummy, new ass. It's like $25,000. They put you to sleep. You're in bed for like 6 weeks, and then you're a new woman.
Wow, $25,000.
I mean, I fucking deserve way more than that. I
if
gave
you think
a child. I gave him a
child.
$1,000
$1,000 a blowjob, you can pay for it in like 4 days.
There you go. I don't fuck for free. Skills pay bills.
I charge at least $7. Oh, that's the name of this, right? I'm ready for my skills to pay more.
I'm like,
bills.
just kidding. My mom's listening to this. Just
your mom
kidding.
listening to
she
this shit?
doesn't understand English.
Chilequiles, pásale, barato,
She's like,
ándale.
what? she does understand English, and she's probably like, wow, my daughter, what has become of her? I think that there was like a time where she was a little worried because I was just like a crazy like teenager that like ran away.
You still kind of are like a crazy teenager though.
Yeah.
But Manny's my anchor.
You did run away.
He's my
too.
everything. Yeah,
Wow.
I did run away. But
You ran away when you were a kid?
yeah, I did.
I did too, and I made it down the street, and I was like, fuck this.
No, I was gone for like a
Give
weekend.
me this.
Yeah.
Mexican people are fucking crazy. You guys are crazy.
You've known like my story as like my childhood and all that kind of stuff, and so I don't know, like I think my dad like one day was like, if you don't like, you should just leave. You should leave. And I was like, oh. And like I think Manny's like known this about me, like when you like say something crazy like that, I'm like, oh, okay. I don't fuck around. And
okay,
Ice
bye.
knows that because I've been fucking crazy. And so I was like, all right, I'm not fucking coming home. And I fucking like I stayed out for like a weekend, and it was really bad because it like really fucked my mom like bad. And so, and like my dad didn't even care. He never went to look for me or anything like that. And
She'll be all right.
You know, he's like, she's a survivor. But yeah, I totally like ran away, and like my mom like after that, like she was so traumatized. She's like, please be open about things with me and this and that. And it just felt like really like shitty because, you know, it's like your freaking mom and you don't, you know, but yeah. So I think that's why I'm like so
Way
open
more
with
badass.
Ice. I'm like, Ice, if you have like any question you have, I will answer it. And so like, and I'm very like,
I like your impersonation of you as a mom.
I know. I'm like, please.
That's not what you sound like, by the way,
I'm
as
like,
a mom.
Please, Ice. And so yeah.
Much more
and
vulgar.
So she totally always asks me questions, and I'm always.
What does she
honest
sound
with
like when
her.
she asks them? I'm just interested.
She's
I'm just
like,
kidding.
Mom.
Ma.
Yeah.
She sounds like a Muppet.
Super squeaky voice.
What does it mean? When...
Oh, that does sound like her.
No, yeah. And then she does this one thing where she's like, right, Mom? Like,
Yeah, you
because
have
she
to always
like
confirm everything
she's
for it to be
like
exactly
if Manny
right.
says something like she doesn't ever believe him. She's always just kind of like, right, Mom? And I'm like, yeah. But
That kid.
yeah, she knows who's the boss.
I like her. She's a good kid. I'm not a big kid. Well, I am a kid. I like kids.
Yeah.
I used to work with kids a lot.
I think in like the right setting, I like kids.
Yeah, I don't want to be a parent though. I don't have that feeling.
It's.
I don't.
Oof.
Like I don't.
Too much.
I don't think like I
Yeah.
feel like I have this idea in my head that like when most people think about kids, there's like this little thing inside their belly that's just like
I think
this little flame that just like.
Did you feel that flame?
No.
No.
It was more just it's happening, and we've got to kind of deal with this each step of the way.
Oh.
And then she got here, and it's like, oh wow, this kid's beautiful. She's awesome, and
Yeah.
you know she's okay to have around. And,
She's okay to have around.
you know,
I don't.
She's
Well, I mean,
alright.
luckily, I don't really have to worry about the whole pregnancy thing.
I know, but we celebrate every month. Every time I get my period, I'm like,
Well, yeah,
this is
because
a
Manny
fucking
just needs to go get
celebration.
snipped.
I know, but
That's
It's
not
like a
happening
why? It's like
anytime
a
soon.
it's like a lunch. It's like a lunchtime procedure, and it's reversible.
It's quick, but it's also, you know, to me, there's just so much like uncertainty around it. Like, if it happens, like I know it's reversible,
But you can also freeze your jizz for like $18 a month.
Oh,
but
wow.
There's just something about having the potential to do it. You know, like I
Gotcha.
want to, you know, have another kid. I want only one kid, but I like having the potential. To do so, and I can't explain
Okay, so the
rationale
potential
behind
is the flicker that I'm talking about.
Yes.
I don't want that. Like the thing is, I know I can have a kid if I want, but like the desire, it's like pushing a button and the batteries are dead. Like I don't have a paternal. I have Mariam. That is my
Yeah.
child. I mean, honestly, like I don't even know how I would. I don't think I could live my life, and I don't know how celebrities have kids.
no. And you know what? When
I don't get it.
When we when I was like pregnant, I remember telling Manny, I'm like, I'll only like really like I want to be able to be around my kid. Like that's what I want. I don't want anyone raising my kid. Like I want to like constantly be like there. Like I'm not doing this shit like so someone else could raise my kid. Like I want to like be like, hey, you know. And so for me, it was like one of those things where I, you know, like I love having her. Like I feel like her being in the shop, and like now she's not there as often, but like her being in the shop has really like her social skills are freaking awesome.
Yeah,
and
she likes kids even less now. I love it.
Oh,
I love to watch her blow kids off. It is the funnest thing because kids will be just like humping her leg. Yeah. They're like, oh, I want to play. And she's like, what did you say? Can you hand me the cord for my iPhone?
Yeah,
like I love it. Yeah, but when an adult comes in, she wants to.
Oh, she's very chatty.
That's how I was. I had no interest in talking to kids my age. I only wanted to talk to adults.
Well, I feel like in school she's always been like, yeah, I told them that like I went to go like have coffee with like my mom and dad, and everyone was like, you drink coffee? That's gross.
Oh, kids were
and I'm
so
like,
boring to me.
I'm like, dude, they don't understand how cool you are yet. Like, and it sucks because like I feel like at this age, like it's all about like, everyone needs to be like the same. Yeah. And then like you get to high school and you're like, I want to be like different. And it's like, like, dude, do you know how like original you are? And you have to like dumb it down for like everyone in your like class. And sometimes it's kind of like, which sucks because it's like I wish that she could, like sometimes she does show her full potential and then she's just kind of like, But yeah, a lot of the times
School
I'm like,
fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool like if you could realize that so many of the people are going to peak in high school without having to see people peak in high school first to know about it?
Yeah.
Peaking in high school, like you don't understand what that means until you see people that peak in high school. And then you're like, if only I could have told my 8-year-old self how fucking cool I am. And that I'm cool now. And that those people were literally only cool then. And then that was it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And so that's why with her, I'm like,
But you can't tell kids that. They don't get it.
Yeah, because we've gone through it, right? Where it's like,
we've
dude,
it.
like,
yeah.
And so with me, I'm like, listen. Like the other day, we were like trying to like create like this like little like living room for like a doll. And I was like, listen, I fucking do this for fucking a living. Let me design it. And she's like, I
love her mom voice.
No. She's like, no, mom. And I'm like, ugh. And then by like the end of it, I was like, you make it then.
Okay.
Then there was like no real like cool, But yeah, she she's so crazy.
Well, guys, thank you so much. This, right? I mean.
Yeah. I mean,
do we say I mean, that's kind of awkward.
No.
What do I say?
Well,
okay.
Well, yeah.
Because I mean,
yeah.
I just.
You can say whatever you want.
I feel like I'm talking, over the phone and saying goodbye or something like that.
Well, I'm in front of you, so
maybe I should talk to you.
That's why I said I don't want to do like a side-by-side thing because it's like I've seen those videos and when people do podcasts or they're interviewing someone and they're side to side and you're just kind of like, what the fuck?
Well, we're looking
like you're looking at the microphone and you're like talking and it's like, what the fuck is that?
But right now I'm looking at your eyes. I mean, we're actually making eye contact, talking with each other. This is the most eye contact I've had in over like at least 3 months.
We eye contact a lot. Okay, so yeah. Maybe you're looking at something else, but I'm looking at you and I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Usually you're checking your phone.
No.
Let's be honest.
Is it me or is it you?
No, definitely me, but mine is all work related. But we won't talk about that. Anyway, let's go. We're on to, looking forward to the next one. Yeah. And I feel like the next one's going to be even better. So just be patient with us as we kind of try to figure it out. But I think we're on the right path. But we do want to say thank you for listening to what we got going on. Whatever the fuck that is. All right. Yeah. Bye. See you later. What?